Hey everyone, thanks for joining me for the final day this week of our little 5-part series on positive parenting points. We left off yesterday with the most important thing with parenting and with any relationship really is listening to Jesus and obeying him. It's simple, but it's not easy. Sometimes I forget to tune in to him. I want to do things my own way and in my own strength. I sometimes listen to the enemy without realizing it. And when I do those things, my parenting and my grandparenting and husbanding and pastoring and friending are never as good as they could be. But you know what? Because of God's never ending, unconditional love that never fails, and because of his mercy and grace, even when I forget to listen to God, even when I settle for his less than his best, and even when I mess up, he's always working things out for the good and for the best for me and for everybody else. So I'm okay with parenting that way and doing life with everybody like that. I want to give everybody unconditional love that never fails and mercy and grace all the time. And I know that even when I don't, God's got me covered. Now, I believe that these things are the best examples for best advice for parenting and life that I've ever found. Just listening to God, listening to Jesus, and obeying him. Some people, though, would say, well, look, you've talked for 5 days now about parenting, and you haven't even talked about punishment. I mean, what about rules? Some of you are probably thinking that, I would guess. Of course, there have to be rules and standards for kids as they grow up. Nobody wants their kid to learn about they shouldn't put their hand on a hot stove the hard way. We want to show them things. We want to tell them what not to do and what to do. But I'm believing that rules should be few and fewer as kids get older, and pick our battles, and then think and pray long and hard about them in advance, if we can. Now, sometimes things happen right away and we can't. However, when kids do make poor decisions, and we deem that some type of punishment is appropriate, then we always want to affirm in advance with our kids or with our grandkids that we and God love them unconditionally, and that any misstep they make would never change our unconditional love. Then we tell them, okay, here's the punishment, discipline, whatever you want to call it. We tell them why, and we want to always remember the purpose of the punishment is always to be restorative, to put them back into a right relationship. Then we do our best not to bring the situation up to them again after they've done it, by reminding kids or grandkids or a spouse or anybody, well, you did it again. You always do that. You'll never change. Those are things that I've learned to avoid like the plague, because when you say that, you're in control, and there's nothing the other person can do. If you talk about something they did in the past, there's nothing they can do. Of course they did it. We don't want God talking to us about that. What if God said to us every day, all right, you lost your temper again. You did it yesterday. You did it 2 weeks ago. You did it. We don't want to do that. Greek dictionaries seem to show that with any punishment words that were used in the Bible, the aim was always to get the good separated from the evil and then to attract it into the communion of blessedness. That's a phrase they use. Punishment, of course, will hurt. I mean, it's not like you want to hurt somebody with punishment, but it's like the fire, metaphorically, which separates the alloy from the gold. It's like the surgery, which removes the disease thing from a person. It's like the cauterizing, which burns out. That's what can't be removed any other way. So God's agape, unconditional love, always does what's best for the other person. Sometimes it may, quote, hurt, but it doesn't focus on its own perceived reputation and image. Like, we never want to punish a kid because we say, oh, look what you did to our family, or how you hurt me, or how you made me look bad, or something like that. God doesn't do that. Anytime that we have discipline for somebody, it should always be for their best, and it doesn't focus on our perceived reputation and image. Now, do we always do those things perfectly? Obviously not. With me, like, do we now relate to our grown kids and our adult children and our grandchildren? Do we relate to them perfectly every time? Well, obviously not. That's why in all cases we're so thankful that, as 1 Corinthians 13:5 says, God's perfect love keeps no record of wrongs. 1 John 4:18. God's perfect love casts out all fear. In 1 John 4:8 and 16, God is love. And you heard me talk about that over and over and over again. Then I want to close with Galatians 5:6. This is from the Message. Here's what it says. I suspect you would never intend this, but this is what happens. When you attempt to live by your own religious plans and projects, you are cut off from Christ. You fall out of grace. Meanwhile, we expectantly wait for a satisfying relationship with the Spirit. For in Christ, neither our most conscientious religion or disregard of religion amounts to anything. What matters is something far more interior, faith expressed in love. So in parenting, as in our marriaging, however you want to say it, and in every relationship, we can never go wrong by letting Christ in us express his unconditional love through us and as us. As we do, the watching world will know that we're his followers. We can't go wrong with that. Anytime I can, if I'm in a store or out walking or somewhere, and I see a mom, with a couple of little kids, and they're tugging this way and that and everything, and I'll watch them for a little while. Every time I can, I'll go up to them with a great smile and say, "Boy, you appear to be such a great mom. You're really sharing love to your kids. I just was watching and I was impressed by that." When we say that to someone, man, it makes all the difference in the world. All right. Hope this little parenting thing has been helpful this week. Join me next week and we'll look at something else. Thanks, everybody. Bless you all.